and we'll find our final conversation around the area of education. And our guest is already seated in the hot seat this morning. Not to forget that wherever you're tuned in from, on our live streams of YouTube, Facebook, and on X Live, and our audience on KTN, wherever you're tuned in around the country, the region, and indeed the world, this is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Dennis Ndu and Dennis with you this morning, and having conversations that matter, and that we're getting involved in discourse that's going to shape the minds of people, communities, the nation, and indeed the world. Looking at what's going on, and we'll get into another one this hour. Our guest is seated. Professor Humphrey Oborah is the World Talent Federation Secretary General. He's the head of Africa Missions of the Gates Africa Education Group, and he's in the hot seat this morning. Prof, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm great.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
We're going to be looking at, unfortunately, from problems to crisis,
yes,
and the state of Kenya's education system.
Right.
And perhaps you're going to open this up for us a lot more. We whine and complain about this every day, and we ask so many questions about what could be. But it seems as though there's a fundamental philosophy to the problem that you're going to be able to share with us today.
Yep.
We're going to get into that in just a minute.
Thank you.
But Dennis Aseto wants to take you to Cote d'Ivoire. According to your dress and what you've told us earlier, a country not too far away from where you procured this particular outfit to go.
Yeah. And we are in Cote d'Ivoire, bordered by several countries: Liberia, Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, Ghana, and the Atlantic Ocean. It is a country that is known to be producing 40% of the world cocoa, which goes to produce chocolate. So if you're a lover of chocolate, perhaps it has some bits of Ivory Coast in it. But let's go to the proverb today. The toad does not run in the day for nothing. The toad does not run in the day for nothing. How would you interpret that?
It's also true that a mad night runner does not also run in the day.
A mad one?
Yeah.
What about the same night runner? Okay.
Yeah. The truth about that is that things don't just happen. Mm-hmm. And if they do happen differently, certainly something is different for that day. Yeah,
a different way to look at it. Yeah, because we expect toads to always walk around at night, because that's when they prosper. But if walking during the day, something must have happened. Yeah. Well put, well said.
Thank you.
Karibu sana. So we'll get into it. We'll jump right into it. It's no question that there seems to be a lot of rumblings in terms of what's happening with education. We've come into the 6th year now of a changed curriculum for Kenya.
Yeah.
And many would say that we never have been able to find, we've been shooting in the dark in terms of what's been happening.
Yeah.
And then no sooner have you gotten out of the water that all the way through to the secondary school level that we're going to change things.
Yeah.
And then even at the university level, we seem to still be in a state of crisis.
Yeah.
All right. Give us an overview from your perspective, what's going on, and as we get into what needs to be solved.
2 statements. One, the people will have fruits, and certainly they find the tree that produces that fruit, but they have no background how that tree grew up there. They try to pick the fruits, but the fruit do not taste like the one they know. They try to water it, prune the leaves, it doesn't work. Finally, they discover it is not the true species of that fruit. But then, because they have no idea how to plant the next fruit, they continue to prune the leaves and pull away the bad fruits, instead of uprooting the entire tree and planting a new one. That's scenario 1. Scenario 2, you like an architectural design of a building. So nice it is that you stole it, thinking that you'd build it and you take the accolades for it. Certainly, you build it on quicksand, it is now cracking, and now you wonder what happened. That is the education in Kenya. But then you got to also build in the history. What is the thin line between learning and education? And what is the education in Africa? Let me tell you something small. How come we do have these problems and the people who brought for us education hardly have these problems? The idea of slavery meant that there had to be a supervisor. And that supervisor had to take care of you whether it was raining or it was dry sun. But that became very difficult. It had to now colonize your mind so that we train you to do what we want you to do, called a job. And then to make sure that it feels good in your mind, we give you good salary. We give you good awards. And that has stayed with us over and over again. If you asked any African, Kenyan included, why do you want to take your children to school? It is never the answer of entrepreneurship. It is never the answer of building communities. It is the answer of getting a good job. So they sell their land, their cattle, to take their children to school with the belief that their children will get a big job, and that job must be gotten through the government or overseas. It is those two thin lines that create us these problems. So we've never had a paradigm shift. We have had cosmetic commissions of inquiry, commissions of improvement of education that have had no answers. And it was about time, at some point in time in the early 2000s, that we said a new design must come in. And it took me and the like-minded people to foster what would have been a game changer. Unfortunately, things broke in between.
By things breaking in between, what is it that you had envisioned with the restructuring and the new system of education that was coming to change things and even perhaps answer the question, why are you taking your child to school?
In the year 2001, I was in an aircraft from Amsterdam. Seated next to me was Professor Douglas Odhiambo, whom I'd known, the man who studied Moi University. So we started a conversation. Based on this food given in this aircraft is for young people like you. I can't eat this. Small things. We laughed all the way. We came back here. We built good friendship. We met at Mayfair Hotel in Westlands, where he loved the Orient rings, and we continued that strong friendship, discussing the state of Kenyan education. Among the early ones that we're discussing, the importance of human metrics, the importance of understanding innate abilities away from rote learning, was enhanced by Rachel Kangethe, Kenyatta University, who took me to Professor Oliver Mogenda those days. Fortunately, Professor Douglas Odhiambo was appointed by the late President Kibaki to chair the realignment of Kenya's education with the new Kenyan Constitution. Our friendship continued. He remembered the ideas that I did have about what is known as the infusion of quality learning matrices in the education system. That I need you to underline. In that context, invited me to KIE to talk to the commissioners about those ideas and how they could possibly be used to draft the report in there. And I did present, and I got standing ovation. Douglas decided to set up a small committee to work with me. This committee was assigned to my office because there was no space at KIE. And the Kenyan thing came in. The guys told me, hii idea yako Jaduong ni mzuri sana. Mambo ya kuassess watu, their prior potential, and then we align them. That's why you hear these things called learning paths, to line them with the paths. And we all agreed that was a good thing. But they said, but unajua vile Kenya nafanya kazi. Sasa, we baki nyuma consultant, wacha sisi tuendeleshe maneno. So, we have only 5 days. You train us. And I questioned myself, what is going on here? That I could work over 10 years and somebody just like train a doctor 10 years and somebody walks in because he thinks the idea is good, then he becomes a doctor in 5 days and then he puts you in the back room. I got mad, I left. And I didn't tell Douglas actually. That's the day I said I'm going to do what I'd planned. I'd all along planned to start Africa's first talent university. And again, underline, talent university, not any other. And I went to Kisumu, got the land, and I just laid the foundation. Who arrives there? Professor Douglas Odhiambo. He wants to know why I left. If you go to Kisumu, we have a tree called Professor Douglas Odhiambo tree because all the villagers knew him. As I was building, we sat under that tree. And that tree had a lot because the Mzee wanted me to go back to that committee and infuse knowledge. And I can tell you, I tried to go back, but things didn't work. And finally, I went to America when I was appointed World Talent Federation Secretary General. But I did give in a lot of information to the Mzee. But I can tell you, the Mzee's mind at his age was so rooted in academics. He half understood what I meant by learning diagnosis. And our hope was that the others would understand. They didn't understand. Unfortunately, somewhere on the way, somebody thought that talent means competence. Now, I need you to, as media, to understand that there's a fundamental difference here. Talent and competence are completely very different.
How are they different?
Let me tell you. Competence emerges from the rubrics of what your natural abilities can do. One is an outcome, one is the thing. It's like saying, if I'm coughing, I'm sneezing, I have fever, that's the sickness. That's a lie. The sickness is something else. Those are symptoms. They are outcomes that indicate you have. So, natural abilities which are measurable and natural abilities in their metric values is what we call talent. That's the correct definition. Indicators that you do have those natural abilities are things like passion, interest, competence. So I questioned, when somebody in the Republic of Kenya said they are going to teach competence, I asked, how can you teach that? Because it's supposed to be the measured outcome. It cannot be something you can teach. But then I assume too, probably they mix the meaning of competence with talent. But then I questioned again, how then would they know the competence of a 6, 7, 8-year-old? Which method or tool would they use to know those competences? Because you can't walk to a hospital and say, give me an injection, let me take this drug without prior diagnosis. It's not realistic. The same way, you cannot walk into a classroom and say, I'm going to teach children this competence if you have no way of diagnosing that competence. There would be a problem there. And so I knew there would be a problem. And there are people who supported me in the beginning, except some went to politics. You know the people who have been to this studio who are loud against CBC because we were together at that very beginning. In the original design, there was nothing called CBC. I can repeat that 1,000 times. The old thing called CBC came as a concoction, and they were lucky, Kamenyi was leaving, and Matiang'i the Forceful had just become the cabinet secretary for education. And with the closeness with Uhuru Kenyatta, they picked the slogan. So you heard them speak the slogans. I used to be in this studio long ago when Paul Melly was the MD. When I was talking about those things you hear the former president talking about, hata mtoto akiona damu ya mbuzi anasirai, you know, that you're trying to force a child to do medicine, but if the child sees blood, they just faint.
Yeah.
Though I was here. Remember DALK, 2002, 2004. If you check your files, you'll see those things. So they borrow the slogans, but they forgot the engine. So it was nice that they put the country on a level, on a precipice, to be able to understand there's something new to be done, but they didn't understand the architectural design. Now, let me walk you that architectural design so you know what should have happened. One of the things we considered Kenya is an African country. As an African country, in curriculum construction and design, it must be simple. It must be affordable. And most importantly, it must be futuristic. If you look at those three things are where CBC has failed. Is it simple? The answer is no. It is so complex that I can tell you the President of the Republic of Kenya does not understand it. The Minister for Education does not understand it, together with the PSS. Teachers have no idea what it is. Parents are wondering what the heck is going on, and the children are the grass burning out there.
Under the elephant. All right. So then the question is, what exactly is going on with the CBE now is what we're being told that it is. What exactly is going on here? Because if we look at the trajectory of things over the last 6 years, at the time that you were speaking of this, when CS at the time, Matiang'i, under the Uhuru Kenyatta administration, when CBC was introduced, before he came in, Amina Mohammed said, you know what, let's test this thing. Let's pilot this thing and see what exactly it is that we're choosing to move from the 844 system. No sooner had she said that, then she was bundled out of office, and then CS Matiang'i came in. We've seen a lot of things go on, and then we see now that we have children who are going to grade 10 in January next year who've been the guinea pigs of this. And unfortunately, at every turn where we see that it has been described that the assessments take place, they've suffered at grade 6, going to grade 7. We saw that they selected pathways at the second term, just last term, and that they're going to grade 10, where we don't even, they tell us that books will be printed sometime this year. We don't know if that's going to happen because, you know, we're running mini elections come November, so we don't know now when books will be printed. And then they're going to go to grade 10, where they will start pathways, for which we don't even have enough science teachers if you choose STEM. Humanities, we don't even know what that is. Sports, we're saying that that's maybe sports medicine and those things, if you go into that direction later on in life, that there are certain prerequisites that must be met. That doesn't exist. So what exactly are we doing? Are we experimenting
I'll
and
give
trying to see what will happen?
Small answer here. The children are going to pathways. How did they determine those pathways? Which method or tool did they use? Because you can't just go to a pathway unless, if you don't have a tool or a method, then you're guessing. And the results of guesswork, you've seen the upheavals. But then I'll tell you a small solution. What could possibly have done? Then just listen to this. One day I was in Eldoret. We had just launched one anthropobiometric machine which was donated from my headquarters in the US.
What is that machine?
It's the one which determines the inner energy sequence, and hence we use it to determine the human potential, and possibly we can use it to forecast your careers. Okay? But that's for another day.
Just a second.
Yeah.
So the machine does what again?
Okay.
I think I've heard of it. I just wanted to be sure.
Okay.
It's the same thing I'm thinking.
All right. I don't know whether I need to go to all that science, but just for a quick summary, where what it does is a 3D, 4D optical sensing technology.
Okay. I
take you a picture, but using not a normal camera, the one which determines your, what we call your body quantum point, which means the strong energy, like the base stations, like the main organs. Then I'm able to tell whether you are left brain or right brain, thin membrane, upper brain, lower brain. Each corresponding unit of your forehead here divided into four represents careers. Like the left upper represents science. The right upper we call the human volcanic brain, the brain of the non-conformed people, the artist, the musician. People don't follow rules. The right lower is the manual dexterity brain, the brain of physical strength. And the lower left...
That's why you have boxers, athletes, and all that. Yes.
So all I need to know about a human, which section of the brain, because what is human? Human is only signal communication. Food is only to enhance it. Okay? If something occurred, say, on your toe, where do signals quickly go? If I see quick signals, always refer to the right upper side of your brain. I know you are volcanic. I know your left brain. If it continues to go to left upper and the rest. The only question is, how do I see those signals? That's where that technology comes. Because it takes a picture of you and then determine the quadrant areas. And where signals pass quickly, it paints for me green. Where it is ish, that means weak, it paints yellow. And where the energy blockages paints red. So that it gives me an image of you like this. And when I see the green, it propagated the right upper side. I say, this is more of real, like it to be a scientist. So you can see how easy it is for me to determine and extrapolate. That means focus careers. Is that just that simple?
So if someone is if somebody is upper left, so that's somebody is arts.
Science.
No, upper right, sorry.
Upper right, volcanic.
That's arts, a musician.
Museums, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But then we do another process called validation of suffering to determine the specializations.
So that's how then you end up creating a path.
A path, yes. So I'm giving you one tool and method.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't have a tool and method. They're guessing. So I was giving the story of Elridge. So I walked in here. A mother arrives with a child. And there's a good reason I'm giving this story. That the child hardly eats. And obviously the child is slim. She's gone to hospital. The doctors say the child has attitude problem. Just force him to eat. He'll finally come through. So I also buy the idea of the doctors, because doctors really know a lot. So the mother gets disappointed. So the following day, I go to the talent clinic where we established the machine. Mother shows up with the child again. Say, just test. So I decide to test. Then I see the green gangali. That means the signals strongly to the tongue. I think I made a mistake. I do it again. I reach out to Hans Nebert, my friend and colleague in Ulm in Germany, who is the expert in this area. We do it again. 4 times, same result. You know what we got it? This child, during prolonged labor, and this is where all these things come, like autism, you know what they mean? Signal terminations. This is now, people need to understand the science behind things. So when signal terminated, that's when child, you give birth, prolonged labor, if you are having food cravings, they have impact on change of signal paths, On this one, the termination went heavy on the tongue, creating high-value taste buds. Today, the child is a wine coffee taster. Now, Dennis, tell me something. Which curriculum or syllabus in Kenya is for this one? Now, you want to see the problem with the Kenyan learning system. Don't start there. Which path would this one be taken to with a curriculum? Which one?
But is wait, so there are 2 things here. So one, you go through, because earlier you were talking about learning and education?
No, learning diagnosis.
Learning diagnosis?
Yeah.
No, there's something initially you said, I think.
There's a difference between learning and education. There's a thin line between the two.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So the assumption then is you go to school, like we've all gone to school.
All of us.
I've done all sciences.
Yeah.
I did physics, I did biology, I did chemistry, I did math, I did everything. But look, I ended up being a journalist.
Yep.
So the idea then here is you go through formal education that it integrates you into a space where you acquire knowledge on different subjects.
Yes.
So eventually, whichever one you choose, because at around, I think it was in Form 2, thereabout, that's where you're told, okay, now, what exactly do you want to do with your life?
Yeah.
So you have like 3 or 4 options, for example.
Yeah.
So then eventually, if I'm ending up becoming a journalist, and I did math, I may come across a research paper, or I may come across, like every day we do here, the audit reports. I have to have knowledge of math for me to be able to do calculations. And so in your argument,
Yeah.
with what everybody else is doing and going through,
Yeah.
are you saying it may not necessarily be important? The primary focus should be understanding the pathway of this child from an early age, then project them to just only doing that? Or are these other things also equally important?
Yes, we have in learning what are the dominant and the subordinate learning rubrics. Academics is just one. There are three modes of learning in the world today. There's natural learning, which is based on your natural abilities. Then we have experiential learning, based on those who probably drop out and gain big experiences. And finally, we have the traditional, conventional academics, which are still very important. When I talk learning diagnosis, Dennis, what I meant is we've built schools with the resources, colleges with resources, universities with resources.
Yes.
The first question is, who is for what? Who is for what resource? At the moment, it's assumed everyone must pass mathematics as a compulsory subject. Everyone must pass English. Everyone must get this minimum. But I can tell you, just to confirm this to you, that wine taster does not require those. It's just there. So one such, probably with natural ability, went to Mombasa without even knowing any language, learned Kiswahili and English in the work, built the biggest clearing and forwarding company, is a class 2 dropout, 34 years ago. Today, he has the biggest clearing and forwarding company with a branch in New York and Dubai. In fact, public university do take their master's degree students for internship in an organization, and they must sign that they are good enough to graduate. So he thinks, in Kenya also, if you have that money and you're also the chairman of the PTA of the schools, So he thinks he can go to KU and get at least a bachelor's degree because he does all this. What do you think he's going to be told? He's not qualified.
Why?
Because he's a class 2 dropout.
Okay.
Tell me, who is fooling who here? What's the meaning of learning? What's the meaning of education? Now you see the thin line there. The natural learning is completely not being used here, and it's what requires a different approach. And they diluted it to call it competence. There's a problem.
Okay. Maybe I can draw some parallels here because from what I'm hearing you say, there's a model that the Scandinavian countries follow. Whereby children in what we call pre-primary in this neck of the woods they're not given work per se. They're allowed to explore and to figure out essentially where their interest lies, and then the learning and the teaching then follows that path. They may be introduced to a class. There could be building blocks here, there could be glue and paint, there could be numbers, there could be anything, and a child will naturally gravitate towards that thing that they're interested in.
Do you want to say that again? Because you're saying it exactly the way I want it to be said.
Okay. So this child naturally gravitates to the area whereby they have an interest and the likelihood that they will nurture a skill in that area. So Kenya and other countries who've adopted this method of education have got it wrong? Is that what you're saying?
They purely picked up the architectural plan without understanding the details. They went to Finland, went to Canada, and copied a system without understanding the history or how it's supposed to be done. If you go to those countries, you go overseas, you need not take any child to any classroom. You will be asked, apart from the grade, who else is this child? That happens, isn't it? And if Muzungu finds a child is good in sports, they spend all their energy there.
Yes.
Hata hiyo tuition teacher kuja ya hiyo. Lakini Mwafrika, Melissa is you see, that's the difference. What you're saying is the truth. Let me put it in a better manner. You're saying the resources are always going to be there. But which resource is best of fit of my child? And therefore, I need to put my child where the right resources are and things of good value, which now we should call the competences, will emerge. That should have been the way, not the other way around.
So the competencies emerge later, as opposed to saying
it's
that
an
we
outcome.
are pushing children through these competencies.
Yeah.
The competencies are an outcome.
Yeah, it's an outcome. It cannot be taught. The problem begins there. So it's no wonder the Kenya government is going in a circus. Where do you put JSS? Where do they, how many CBC classrooms? There's nothing called CBC classroom. That's a lie. It's just a classroom. They're chasing the wrong things. There's nothing new there. They didn't even need to change the 844. Everything remains the same. They're just semantics. Even baptizing CBC and CBE, that's just baptism. It doesn't change it.
But Prof, okay.
Yeah.
I will disagree with
Yes,
I will
okay.
disagree on this principle.
Yeah.
Competency can actually be taught.
Tell me how you would.
But okay, I'm just thinking. So first, I pick a subject.
Yeah.
For example, I'm picking basketball as a sport.
Yeah.
So I've never touched a basketball, and I take a basketball. I learn how to dribble the basketball.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning how to dribble with one hand.
Yeah.
Then at some point, I grow into dribbling with his other left hand.
Yeah.
Then I realize, wait, my right hand is actually powerful or faster than my left hand.
Yeah.
Then I focus on my right hand.
Yeah.
So then I begin to dribble around people.
Yeah.
And with time,
Yeah.
I can now dribble while running or walking before I throw my basketball.
Correct.
Before I make the jump.
Yeah.
In that case, with that principle in mind, is it then I've understood the basketball dribbling, then I begin to understand the rules and the principles that then I need to play basketball. I can't, what is it called? I can't do, is it 3 steps?
Layup.
Yes, I can't do that. So I understand then the rules, the regulations, all the principles and everything. Isn't that learning, then I become a competent player if I'm a forward or I'm a guard or whatever it is that I'm doing. Isn't that a learning process I've gone through to be competent, to be able to be a very good basketball player?
Okay, I didn't finish something. I only talked about discovery or assessment. What are the outcomes? The first outcome is called a talent report. A talent report defines what is dominant, what is subordinate in you. So I know this is my biggest strength, because it's very possible that you could also have multiple talents. The people with multiple, they're using both sides of the domain. Okay? So and those people who have multiple talents, we call them the gifted. That's the meaning of being gifted. Okay? The people who have multiple talents. When we finish with a report, we write what is called a learning prescription. That learning prescription considers a lot of rubrics that you do have. So some of the things you're saying that I learned left, it could have been indicated from the metric values. We see more strength on the right than the left, instead of you discovering by yourself along the way. We could have discovered it. Then, for your talent to work, you can also have moribund talent. You can't have a talent just sitting there with it. It has to move. What moves it? Talent enhancement has a lot of things. Okay, one of them is what you're mentioning. It could also be in class, and I am not downplaying the value of classroom, as long as in that class there is what is important to infuse into what will build me bigger. So the prescription is the combination of what would be in class and what is outside class to enhance that. That includes what you're describing at the training. Training is never bad, and I never said it's bad at all. But training for what you'll most likely succeed with is better than training for what I do not know did even ever belong to me.
So, Prof, as we have this discussion now, we look at what has been tried in the Scandinavian countries and has worked there. Kenya went for benchmarking, saw what happened there, and decided this is what we're going to pick. But in the implementation, there's a tape that was cut somewhere. First of all, why did that happen if you have the information, and how do we then fix it? Because we can't continue implementing these system of education if you're getting it wrong.
I started by telling you that in curriculum construction, there are 3 tenets. I only described the one. When our people went to benchmark, they picked without considering the history the financial ability, the culture, very many things you have to consider before implementing a new system, isn't it? So, this is Kenya. This is not Scandinavian country. In Kenya, we need a system, and we defined why we needed those three tenets. You need a system which is simple, so simple that a grandmother taking care of a mujuku in Tana River has the hang of what goes on in school. That's the simplicity that needed. Then the next thing, is it affordable? But more crucial, futuristic, is it that when I give a 6-year-old child to a school, and this, if you go to Scandinavian countries, the parents do have a right, and you can be taken to court. The Minister for Education of the Republic of Kenya owes me as a parent. I am giving you a 6-year-old child. Do you know, as the minister, where probably my child will end up? If the minister has no such idea, then he has no business sitting there. This is because there they assess the children and be sure, and they have the tools and the methods. The minister is clear in his system what was supposed to happen. So you picked a curriculum from another country and tried to model it through your wrong one. What do you expect? The results are obvious. That's why we're in where we are. So the title of today, there's a reason for it. There has been problems in Kenya about the education sector. Is slowly building into a crisis. Things you see like riots, Dennis. Things you see in the universities, all these upheavals, what are they about? Are they about people just being mad, or things are not working? And why are they not working? Because any human who invests in something and anticipates some result will feel bad if those results are not forthcoming. It's the truth, whether young or not. So the problem there was it was borrowed, fitted in the wrong model, it is not working, it is frustrated, and therefore, after crisis, what are you expecting? Expect a catastrophe.
Okay. So I was going to ask then what the solution to all of this is, if we're seeing that we've done the wrong thing.
Yes.
But if we're going towards catastrophe, perhaps there's not a solution just then. But so what is the solution to all of this? Because we're already halfway through the thing. In 2027 is the last of the 844 that will ever be in the country if we continue with this system of education. That your current Form 2s will sit the last KCSE.
Yes.
They are the same ones who sat the last KCPE. And we're starting the first KJSEA in this month of this next month of November. So that all goes ahead. That old system in the next 2 years will be completely phased out. But you're saying that we've gone into one that will not work. So what is the solution?
You know, I'd hope when President Ruto was just about to occupy the office, and I wrote to him a letter, because he had indicated that he would do something toward quality matters. And he had once talked, and I have his video, very many, I like things of education, and compare with what I think would work. I don't know what happened in between, but all that we needed to do is never to change any system. That's number one. The moment you try to change a system, two groups here come up, and they get very excited. The consultants, who could always write a new curriculum because it means good money, and the book publishers who only change the cover pages. There's never new mathematics. It's all business. And they form the major cartel group in between here, and whenever any regime changes. I know they don't like me saying this, but I'll say it. It takes very little to correct what is the problem now. Call it CBE, call it CBC, call it 844, whatever the semantics, let them stay. But do one thing. Infuse quality matrices in the learning system by introducing learning diagnosis and give two possible exits, not in the form of I'll be engineer, I'll be this. That's why he's saying what he's saying. He studied that, but he's doing this. No, that's not what is important. That those who have natural abilities and are not conformed to the rubrics of academics, give them a chance in the natural learning.
When? At what level? Because now we're talking across...
At all levels.
Grade 1, grade 2, pre-primary, grade 10, when? And
yes.
in order for you to do that, in order for you to expose children towards their natural learning tendencies, like you say, that you're going to have people who are switched on. In terms of being teachers, because they are the ones who recognize what these tendencies are. So where are we saying we do that?
Okay,
Grade 9, grade 6?
Let me pull you back, because I think I needed to have told you this, and because you have that question. What do those countries have? There are what we call learning clinics. You know, in Kenya, we believe people must go to school to learn. I want to give you another form. There's more learning for a musician on a dry riverbed, seated on a rock, drafting or composing a certain genre. Just to let you know, okay? A person who is an artist with a board and a tree could be more useful there than going into a formal classroom. Doesn't mean that same person does not require to go to a common class for soft skills or business communication. Still good. The same way, there is nothing wrong, just like it happens in the Premier League, to have young 6-year-olds spend more hours on the football field learning those rubrics and still be in classroom. When I talked a learning prescription, that's what it meant. The crossbreed between allowing adventure outside and partly in school with the freedom of exit if we learn. Now, this is underlined. If we find that you are learning and product style, human do have learning style. This we don't consider in our learning systems. The child is so clever, but when it reaches the day of exams, everything evaporates. Can't write an exam. What do you do? And you know those things do occur. Okay? That is a lot. Or mathematics was ever difficult until the teacher changed. The teacher only conformed to the learning and product style of this learner. Now, all these things, we will find them on a learning prescription if we did a diagnosis. So we had proposed in the beginning, and that's why I'm saying that there must be 3 modes of learning in the Republic of Kenya if we have to get away and we don't need to change a thing. What is CBC, what is a college, what is a university are good, and they have good resources. It is what the prescription will say. My son, I discover my son is very good in engineering, but he has some potentials in football. I know he's an avid writer as well. What do I do? Those are 3 things possible in my child. What do I do? So I must allow the freedom of learning in the 3 modes so that what is natural, probably I spend, if I need more time in school, I take daytime in school, but evening or partially some days, there's freedom to go and do that. This, we had even designed the legal framework for it. I still have it on my laptop, where learning could give the freedom, because a whole learned person is a free person. What is the essence of learning? To create you free. So, if I had something to do with music, I would have a chance to go to the music clinic.
Which music clinics are these ones that
clinic.
exist?
Okay.
This is my question. Who are the vanguards of this solution that you're speaking about? Who are the ones who are going to get this to be done? Okay, sports clinic. There's a whole ecosystem around learning. It's not just the classroom. If we're talking about the model that you're speaking about. So where do these things exist? And remember that we are saying that the majority of Kenya's children are in a public system.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So if we're saying that split the education between capabilities, natural tendencies, and then other kinds of learning, that ecosystem has to have provided the necessary mechanisms for this thing to happen. They don't exist.
I can tell you, most things exist except they are being ignored. If you're talking about football, they might not be as good as in the other world, but they are there. What informed the clamor for creating sports stadiums was some of these things we're speaking here. We have a lot of musical studios which easily can be made into a clinic by making sure. A clinic doesn't mean the clinic in the medical sense. It is where probably are going to learn my basic tool, which we all do here, say my voice recording or my vocals, the melodicas, small things. Those, if we got them accredited, and we try to do that with Ezekiel Mutua, the former music copyright, and we found that we have a lot that can be used across the country. Same for the many of the other genres. The only thing that needed to be done is to find a legal framework for which we could have anchored this, and therefore change and say, learning can be natural and learning can be academic. Academic continues the way they are, and then the natural infusions for those who do have other potential, these are other avenues that you could be able to use. And in those other avenues, for the parents, Dennis, a parent whose child goes for music, goes for sports, believes that they're wasting time. The truth is, if you went there, you will still get your degree, because we score differently. We score what are called the talent credits. Talent credit by 205 UNESCO, when we reach 150 such credits, you are awarded a bachelor's degree. People do not know the alternative learnings. You don't need to go to a classroom, do an exam to get a diploma and get a degree. You can also amass credits, and the credits are transferable. This is the other part that we needed. So if your prescription said, then you could combine if you're multiple talented, or you have to go to that extent to what is required in the school. And in the school, we wanted in that legal framework that we will discover those who are not wired to write exams. Give them the freedom not to write exams, but to compile projects, which is what they borrow to form into the CBC.
I'm just wondering.
Yes.
How practical is this in the sense that, okay, so let's assume you have a class of 100 students. And this model sounds to me, it's custom made for each individual. So in your argument, for example, if you are setting up exams, then you can't set the same exams and make everybody sit for those same exams. There's some who, like you're saying, can amass credits that then can be eventually be totaled to then give them a certificate or a degree. They don't necessarily have to sit for exams. And I'm wondering, how practical will this be if you have 50 students, all with different spectrums of all these different pathways? So there's one who's really, really good in sports. So maybe they might spend 60% of their time harnessing that and spend the other 40 maybe doing academics. Then there's somebody else who's very, very good in academics. Then they need the 60% and maybe the other 40% in. How do you practically do this?
How difficult is it? There is no difficulty. I am good in sports. I signed up with the sports club. Okay?
Yes.
My timetable in the school says that this is when we offer this, we offer this. So I know which days to come for this, and I know which days to go for the other one. How difficult is that?
With our current
Does it
system?
really look complicated?
With our current
And it's
system?
happening. I was teaching in Brookhouse, and we allowed those freedom. And some of them became rugby players. In fact, some of the schools can now say, I have these sports facilities, and this is what we also drafted.
Yeah.
We can use them, and we outsource them even at a fee for those who are good in it. It's just that simple.
Okay.
It's not complicated.
From what you're saying, Prof, there's a simple way to then be able to sort these problems out that are eventually getting into crisis and then catastrophe.
Yeah.
And to look into options then for the future.
Yeah.
It's always good to open our eyes to other realities and then say there are ways to get ourselves out of these issues. So we want to thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
And thank you for highlighting all of those for us today. We've had a conversation this hour looking into issues around education and what the exact problem is. And we say a very big thank you to Professor Humphrey Oborah, who is World Talent Federation Secretary General, Head of Africa Missions, the Gates Africa Education Group. Asante Sana.
Thank you so much.
Thanks all for being part of the Situation Room this Thursday. More conversations coming your way as the days progress. Have a wonderful day.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.